The June refines are finally here, and we have quite the anticipated batch, so let's jump straight on in. Let's start off with one of the big fan favorites, Nemesis. So we have Dark Creator Sword S, we have reduces damage from attacks during combat, and from area effect specials, very noticeable by X%. If it's a unit's first combat initiated by foe or by Nemesis, then X equals the number of allies with HP greater than 75%, times 25, max of 75, otherwise, X equals the number of allies with an HP greater than equals 75%, times 15, max of 45. Okay, so that sounds really complicated, but the way it actually works is like, you just look at the allies on your team, and then if they have higher than or equal to 75% HP, you need 3 of them. If you have 3 of them, you get 75% if it's the first combat. If not, you'll get 45%. So it still works like the same mechanic he had before. It's a little bit different, a little bit more forgiving. And it is a lot of damage reduction, right? 75% is a ton, and even 45% is pretty decent. The thing is, it's like a very weird gimmick. So like in Aether's offense, it won't matter all that much typically, because usually only the Omni tank is fighting, so it's not the biggest deal. But it is pierceable damage reduction, so you have to keep track of that for sure. But the fact it works against AoEs is a big deal, because not many units get 75% AoE damage reduction by themselves. We also have defense +3. We get all stats plus X during combat, where it's the number of allies with the HP condition again, times 3 plus 4, so a max of 13 stats that way again. So nice chunk of stats, honestly, very, very good amount of stats there. And then once again, if his HP is greater than or equal to 25%, we'll get another +4 to all stats. We'll get to inflict guard on the foe, he gets special acceleration, and he restores 7 HP after combat. So overall, this is an interesting refine. Definitely not anything insane, but it does, like, Nemesis quite tanky, right? Like, he has like a lot of ways to get very, very tanky. His weapon does give a lot of pierceable DR, which is still something you definitely want, even though it is pierceable. And he does get a ton of stats, right? Like +17 all stats is nothing to laugh at. Guard is something you do want, but not necessarily something you like. It's not like the most top priority. Special acceleration does allow him to like consistently keep good specials up, though he doesn't have slang, so that's something you have to consider as well. And the healing after combat is decent. So overall, I think that Nemesis got like a good refine. It'll definitely make him very bulky, and he can run like a Lagu's Friend 4 build, and he can get some flat DR in there as well, which means that he can be pretty difficult to kill, as you can't really rely on AoEs, and then the flat DR kind of protects him from when you have a lot of piercing. So there is some good options there, but I don't think he has everything he needs. He is pretty slow, and he doesn't have like a guaranteed fall attack or anything like that, so he's kind of reliant on like one-shotting or trying to get like guaranteed fall attack support, which isn't the best. So overall, I do think this does make Nemesis a very bulky Omni tank. I think he's just kind of in a weird situation where, depending on his build, he'll either be really difficult to kill, but he'll miss kills, or he'll like be able to secure kills, but he won't be quite as tanky. So that's going to be something we'll have to play around with to see what his best build ends up being. But I do think this is a good refine, just nothing amazing. Next up, let's go over to Julian. So Julian has Thieves Honesty. This is effective versus Cavalry. Then at start of combat, if his HP is greater than or equal to 20%, he'll get +4 all stats. He'll get 20% true damage based off his speed, but does not work with AoEs. He reduces damage by 30% against the foe's first attack, and it's brave. And he gets Hardy Bearing. Then the actual refine itself will be if he initiates combat, or if he's within 2 spaces of an ally, he'll get another +4 to all stats. He'll get all stats plus X, and inflict all stats minus X on the foe, which is based off the visible bonuses on the foe's stats. He gets special acceleration, and he restores 7 HP after combat. So this is actually a pretty solid refine. Definitely nothing like, game breaking by any means, but it does make Julian pretty strong. It gives him a lot of ways to, accelerate into bigger specials like lethality. He can easily run like Marked Ring plus Times Pulse, and then pretty consistently hit lethalities, which is really nice, while being pretty bulky and having a nice amount of true damage. The Hardy Bearing in his weapon makes him pretty unique, as he doesn't have to run that in his seal now, so that's pretty nice as well. The stealing of stats kind of thing, like where he isn't the best, right? Like the thing is, I don't really like effects where you are dependent on the foe doing something to get like your full power out of it. Now he does have a decent amount of stats in his weapon, +8, which is like pretty much like the baseline. But like the big +X is really based off the foe buffing, which isn't going to always be the case. So in some situations, Julian will be much stronger than another, which is something you'll have to account for. And the 7 HP after combat is like fine, but I'm not really sure why this is here. Like this is, they have this on him and Nemesis, and it's going to be kind of a trend throughout this refined batch. Overall, I do think Julian got a pretty solid refine. Definitely gonna make him a pretty usable unit, and he can definitely work in like game modes like Aether's Defense, or as a nuke in some other game modes if you really want to heavily invest into him. Okay, up next is gonna be Awakening Anna, and she does have a kind of an insane refine. It's kind of all over the place too, but let's jump into it. So speed +3, unit can move to any space within 2 spaces of an ally within 2 spaces. So she has that like Ash warping on herself only. That's pretty cool. And at the start of turn, she'll also grant the following effects to herself and other allies based off the number of allies within 2 spaces. So if there's 1 ally, she'll give herself and that ally count to 1. If there's 2, she'll grant herself dodge and the ally dodge as well. So pretty nice little support effect there. If she initiates combat, or if the foe's HP is greater than or equal to 75% start combat, she'll grant attack and speed +5 and defense and res +4 to herself during combat. I don't know why they can't just make everything +5 and make things easier, but sure. And then also she'll heal 7 HP after combat. Once again, the third refine with that. And then here's the actual refine itself. At start of combat, if her HP is greater than or equal to 25%, she'll get all stats plus X, where X is the number of bonus effects active on herself, excluding stat bonuses times 2 + 4, so a max of +12 to all stats. So in total, that's a plus of like almost +17 to all stats, almost. She'll also neutralize her own penalties, which is really nice, and she'll get 15% true damage based off her speed during combat, but not with AoEs. So overall, we have a very interesting refine for Ana. She's kind of all over the place. She's like a jack of all trades. As an Omni, I do think she can be quite good, but she doesn't have all the things like really necessary, right? She doesn't have like flat damage reduction. She doesn't even have damage reduction in her actual weapon. And so it's going to be really based off her build to be able to run that Omni tank function. But as like, you know, as a melee initiator or as a support unit, she can do that pretty well, right? She offers some really unique and powerful support, which is really nice. She can actually put out a lot of damage thanks to the true damage and all the stats she's getting. And she also has really great mobility too. So like, she's kind of in a weird position where she kind of does everything pretty well, but she's not a master of anything. And so overall, I do think this is a very solid refine. And depending on what you want to do with Ana, you can definitely do it. You're just gonna have to invest a lot of fodder to make that role function essentially. Yeah, if you're an Ana lover, this is definitely a cool refine, and I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, let's move on to Summer Selena with her exotic fruit juice. This is going to grant attack +3. She's going to inflict speed and res -6 on foes within 3 rows of 3 columns, centered on herself, so pretty massive range there, very nice. At start of combat, she'll also neutralize the foe's bonuses to speed and res during combat, and she'll get 15% true damage based off the foe's attack during combat, but not with AoEs. Then at start of turn, if she's within 5 spaces of a foe, she'll give herself a visible attack and speed +6 and Hexblade, and she'll also give it to allies within 2 spaces for 1 turn. And then she'll also inflict a visible debuff of speed and res -7 and a flash effect, that prevents counterattacks on the nearest foe within 5 spaces, and it will spread to other foes within 2 spaces. And then lastly, if she initiates combat, or if their HP is greater than or equal to 75%, she'll get speed and res -5 on them during combat, and she'll get full null follow-up. So overall, this is a pretty powerful refine for Selena. Like, we kind of know exactly where you want to put her at. You want to put her in Ether Raid's defense. Not only does she have a lot of combat power, so she's going to hit pretty hard, she also offers a ton of support for the entire Cav line, right? She's going to be giving them all some power with visible bonuses and Hexblade, and at the same time, she's going to be debilitating the enemy team with those visible debuffs and flash, which means it kind of makes it so that they have to have NCD. If they don't have NCD, they're going to be screwed, right? So overall, I do think this is a pretty powerful refine for her. Now the thing is, when it comes to the actual meta, the thing is that Emblem Ike is like by far the most powerful Omni deck right now, and she's not going to be able to do much against him because he has built-in NCD, and there's a ton of ways to take those hits, right? So like, without a way to just do an absolute ridiculous amount, she's probably going to struggle against Ike pretty much, but I do think she is a pretty solid fit onto that Ether Raid's defense map. So overall, pretty powerful refine for Selena, pretty impressed. Okay, you know what time it is. We've been saving this to the end of the video. Here is Fallen Ike's refine, the refine I've been waiting for literally years. We have Chaos Ragnall. This has distant counter, has all stats +4. He also has an Omni Unity effect, so any debuffs on him, he'll get ×2 as a bonus. He has anti-guard, and at start of combat, if his HP is greater than or equal to 25%, he'll get additional +4 to all stats. He'll also reduce damage from the foe's first attack by 7, and that it does work with brave attacks, so that's a flat DR right there. Then also, when unit special triggers, he ignores damage reduction, but does not work with AoEs. And if unit's attack can trigger special, so if he has an offensive special, he gets special jump -X, where X is half of the max special cooldown. Okay, so I did a whole refined tier list video on that, so let's bring up that tier list real quick and see what he got. As you can see, he actually got 2 of the S+ tier effects. He got 1 of the S effects, a B and a C, so this seems like a really good refine, right? Unfortunately, I'm here to say it is not the best refine, and the reason why is that they're all pretty anti-synergistic with his best build. Fallen Ike's best build by far is Lagu's Friend 4, and what that really does is it gives you a nice amount of flat DR, it also gives you some true damage, and gives you damage reduction piercing. So if you're running something like Lagu's Friend 4, that whole damage reduction piercing part of his weapon refine essentially does nothing, it's just redundant, right? Which really sucks. And the other thing, which is the most important thing actually, is that even though he did get special jump, it's not the correct special jump. What we really wanted was special jump that worked on the foe's first attack. And the reason why is like in Lagu's Friend 4, you want to pre-charge your special before they hit you, so that way you can activate the Ike ring and get that non-pierceable DR. As it currently is, what will happen is with Lagu's Friend 4, it will take Mayhem Ether down to 2, and then he'll get hit, take that damage, and then after that, it will charge up Mayhem Ether for him to counterattack. It will, it still will allow him to secure kills that way, but he's going to be taking a lot more damage as he won't have that unpierceable DR. He does have 7 flat DR, which is decent, but when I was talking about flat DR, I was really talking about percentage, right? Percentage flat DR is much better in most situations, because typically you're going to be using it on a stat you're stacking, right? And so if he was to get like flat DR based off speed, it would be much more than 7, and then you stack that alongside the flat DR you get from Lagu's Friend, and it gets kind of ridiculous. 7 isn't bad, it still works, but it's not amazing. And then when it came to bonus stats, I was really hoping he'd get a lot more than 8. 8 is okay, but definitely not in the range we wanted. Like, look at Anna. Anna got way more than that, so like plus 8 is just really not up to like snuff compared to like all the current units, right? And so overall, I think I just got kind of a refine that doesn't synergize well with each other. Like, he also didn't get slaying, so the anti-guard is not bad, it's okay, but with slaying, anti-guard's way better, right? And so he's kind of in a situation where like he wants to run Mayhem Ether, but Mayhem Ether doesn't work all that well on him because he can't charge it to like get the non-pierceable DR. He could go for Godlike Reflexes, but if he goes for Godlike Reflexes, he has to use the Marth Ring or Times Pulse 4, so it's consistent, which kind of sucks. And then if you do that, the DR ignoring in his refine doesn't do anything, right? You're just relying on Lagu's Friend 4. And so I think this refine isn't terrible, but it's definitely not the best. And even if you want to go for a build outside of Lagu's Friend 4, which in my opinion will definitely be less optimal, like let's say you want to go for NCD4 as his B slot, you could do that, but I still think you're going to be kind of struggling because he doesn't have a lot of way to get non-pierceable DR. He has 7 in his weapon, which is okay, but you really need a lot more than that nowadays with all the burn damage being thrown around. Even if you do get the new like Breath of Life 4, you're gonna want more than that, and that's like the really big problem is like he doesn't really fit perfectly into the Lagu's Friend 4 camp, and he doesn't really fit perfectly into like the NCD4 camp either. Like, he's kind of in a weird spot. I really wish the special jump wasn't tied to an offensive special. That kind of sucks. And then I also just wish that like the flat DR was like a percentage, right? I think this is definitely a usable refine. He's definitely better than he was before, like absolutely, right? He has more stats. He got a little bit of flat DR, so definitely help him out there. But I don't think this is like the perfect refine I was really hoping for. I wish it was just a bit more synergistic. Okay, let's move on to the final part of the video. Who won the refine war for June? When it comes to that, I think that at the top we have to have Selena. I don't think we could put her higher than A just because like in the existing meta, she can't really like compete with like Emblem Ike, and so because of that, I'm gonna keep her an A. Under that, I'm gonna have Anna. Anna just got a really solid refine, even though it is a little bit all over the place. Julian also got a very nice refine that makes him definitely usable if you invest into him. Then down in B tier, we're gonna have Nemesis and Fallen Ike. Both of them got refines that definitely do make them overall better, but don't really put them in a place to succeed in the current meta or to make them like super powerful or like in a specific niche, right? And so because of that, I'm gonna put them in the B tier, which is a bit disappointing. I was really hoping for like a home run refined for Fallen Ike, but it just didn't happen. But now I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of this refine batch? Who's refined is your favorite, and who are you planning to refine? What kind of builds are you gonna run on them, and what game modes are you planning to use them in? I'd love to hear about it. So drop a comment down below, letting me know all about it. As always, I'd like to thank all my members for their constant support, and if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. This is Oblivion. I'll catch you all later.